They gave you the standard advice. They told you that if he isn't interested, you should simply move on. But what if I told you that indifference is not a permanent state? What if a man who dismisses you today finds himself consumed by thoughts of you tomorrow, perhaps even craving your presence? The reality is that attraction is not built on effort. It is built on psychology. And once you comprehend this psychology, you can reverse his lack of interest without chasing, begging, or compromising your dignity. Welcome back to Brainify On. Today, we are dismantling the secrets of how to make any man desire you, even if he starts out completely uninterested. This is not about cheap tricks or artificial games. It is about establishing yourself as the type of woman he is incapable of ignoring. Stay with me until the end, because once you see the blueprint, you will never waste time chasing a man again. And if you are serious about decoding male psychology and becoming a woman who commands respect, make sure to subscribe right now. Let's get started. 1. Why chasing destroys attraction. Think about the last time you wanted something badly. Maybe a new phone, a car, or even a person. At first, it's exciting. You picture yourself having it, and your mind creates desire. But now, imagine someone shoving that thing into your face every single day, begging you to take it. Suddenly, it doesn't feel special anymore, right? That's exactly what happens when you chase a man. Most women make this mistake. They think he's not interested. Fine, I'll try harder. I'll call him more. I'll shower him with attention until he finally sees how much I care. But here's the truth you need to face. Chasing doesn't create attraction. It kills it. The harder you push, the faster he pulls away. Why? Because chasing flips the script. Instead of him thinking, "Wow, I'm lucky she noticed me," he starts seeing you as the woman desperate for his attention. You've given him all the power without realizing it. And let's be honest. People don't miss what they already have too much of. If you're always there, always texting, always trying to impress, he doesn't need to think about you. You've already made yourself predictable. Imagine messaging him 3 times a day. At first, he might reply politely, maybe even enjoy it. But eventually, those messages lose weight. They feel routine. They feel expected, and attraction dies in predictability. But the moment you stop chasing, something changes. Suddenly, there's space. And in that space, his mind starts working. He starts wondering, why isn't she texting today? Did something change? Is she talking to someone else? That wondering is powerful. It pulls him back into his own imagination. And imagination is where attraction grows. Here's something most people never realize. The human mind hates unfinished stories. When everything is available, there's no tension, no mystery, no pull. But when something is removed, the mind tries to restore it. That's why absence works. That's why silence can feel louder than words. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." When you chase, you resist his disinterest. You push against it. And in doing so, you strengthen it. When you stop chasing, you remove resistance. You allow space. And space is where desire has room to breathe. There's also a deeper message chasing sends. It signals insecurity. It tells them you don't trust your own value enough to stand still. And nothing drains attraction faster than insecurity. Men are drawn to women who are grounded, self-assured, and emotionally stable. Not women who bend themselves into knots just to be chosen. So the next time you feel the urge to chase, pause. Sit with that discomfort. Let him feel your absence. Let him notice the silence. That stillness will communicate more confidence than 100 emotional messages ever could. Remember this. Chasing doesn't make him want you. It makes you easy to overlook. 2. Silence is louder than words. Here's the part most women misunderstand. They think constant communication is proof of effort. So they send good morning texts, check-in messages, and good night wishes every single day. On the surface, it looks caring, but to him, it starts to feel like noise, and noise gets tuned out. Silence, though. Silence creates contrast. When you stop flooding him with words, he starts asking himself questions. Why hasn't she messaged me? Is she busy? Did she lose interest? Those questions don't just disappear. They echo in his mind. And that curiosity becomes the seed of attraction. Think of attention as currency. If you hand it out freely, it loses value. It becomes cheap. But when your attention is selective, when it feels earned, it becomes precious. And people chase what feels precious. This isn't about punishing him or playing childish games. It's about showing emotional maturity. It's about balance. A woman who can sit in silence without panicking shows confidence, and confidence is magnetic. Here's a simple scenario. You've been messaging regularly. Then suddenly his replies become shorter, slower. Most women panic. They send another message, then another. They try to revive the energy. But instead, you pull back. You don't react. You don't explain. You don't chase. You give it a day. What happens? He feels that gap. He checks his phone expecting your name. He notices your absence because it breaks the pattern. And that break forces him to think. Silence does what words cannot. It invites him into his own emotions. It gives him space to miss you. And missing is the birthplace of desire. 3. Stop being too available. Let's be honest, availability feels loving, but too much availability kills attraction. Many women make themselves endlessly accessible. They cancel plans with friends just in case he calls. They reply instantly to every message. They drop everything the moment he needs attention. On paper, it looks like devotion. In reality, it communicates that your life is empty without him. Ask yourself this. If someone is always available, always waiting, always saying yes, where is the excitement? Where is the tension? There is none. Humans are wired to value what requires effort. Scarcity creates meaning. Men are not drawn to women who orbit around them. They're drawn to women who have their own rhythm, their own priorities, their own world. A woman who says, "I can't tonight. I already have plans," without guilt or explanation, instantly feels more valuable. Why? Because independence signals self-worth. Remember times in your own life when you wanted something rare, something hard to get. That difficulty increased desire. The same principle applies here. When you're not always available, your presence becomes something to look forward to, not something taken for granted. If you make yourself too easy, he won't feel the need to pursue. But when you show that your time is meaningful, that your life is full, he starts to feel the absence when you're not around. And that absence works quietly, deeply in his mind. Attraction doesn't grow through effort alone. It grows through space, self-respect, and emotional control. And the moment you stop giving everything away for free is the moment he starts to notice your value. Continue with me, because what comes next goes even deeper into how his mind works when you pull back the right way. 4. The power of mystery. Here's where most women accidentally turn attraction off without realizing it. They overshare. They explain too much. They reveal every thought, every emotion, every plan far too early. They believe transparency creates closeness. But attraction doesn't grow through full exposure. It grows through curiosity. When a man feels like he already knows everything about you, his emotional momentum slows down. There's nothing left to discover. No tension, no intrigue. And without intrigue, attraction fades. Think about it this way. The human mind is naturally drawn to what feels incomplete, what feels unfinished. When something is partially hidden, the imagination fills in the gaps, and imagination is far more powerful than reality. When you leave space, he doesn't relax. He leans in mentally. Mystery isn't about being cold or secretive. It's about pacing. It's about not handing him the entire story before he's earned the next chapter. A woman with mystery doesn't announce everything she's doing. She doesn't narrate her day in real time. She doesn't emotionally dump every feeling the moment it arises. She allows moments to breathe. She allows him to wonder, where did she go last night? What is she focused on? Why does she seem calm even when I'm distant? Those questions create psychological engagement, and engagement is attraction. Carl Jung captured this perfectly when he said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." That transformation doesn't happen when everything is exposed instantly. It happens through gradual discovery. Oversharing too soon robs him of that process. It turns emotional connection into emotional saturation. And saturation leads to withdrawal. So instead of explaining yourself, let your presence speak. When you hold back just enough, you create space for him to invest emotionally. Mystery keeps you alive in his thoughts when you're not there. This is one of the most important shifts you can make. You've already placed yourself beneath him, more impressive than the other women around him. A man can sense when a woman is trying to win him. Why? Because desire doesn't flow toward effort. When you compete, you turn him into the prize. You subconsciously say, self-respect, and he won't feel deep desire for it. They attach to women who already feel complete. If he's entertaining multiple options, your job is not to outperform the others. The woman who doesn't fight for attention is the one who stands out. She doesn't explain herself. She simply is. Instead of clarifying everything, let him feel. And the more he invests emotionally, the harder it is for him to disengage. 5. Never compete for his attention. The moment you feel like you're competing means trying to be louder, nicer, and that energy is felt immediately. And once he senses that, attraction weakens. It flows toward value. You place him on a pedestal. Your attention is more important than mine. Even if he enjoys the attention, men don't emotionally attach to women who chase validation. The truth is harsh, but freeing. Your job is to stand in your own value. She doesn't rush to respond. She doesn't try to prove why she's worthy. So instead of explaining yourself, let your presence speak. Instead of clarifying everything, let him feel. When you hold back just enough, you create space for him to invest emotionally. And the more he invests emotionally, the harder it is for him to disengage. Mystery keeps you alive in his thoughts when you're not there. 5. Never compete for his attention. This is one of the most important shifts you can make. The moment you feel like you're competing, you've already placed yourself beneath him. Competing means trying to be louder, nicer, more impressive than the other women around him. And that energy is felt immediately. A man can sense when a woman is trying to win him, and once he senses that, attraction weakens. Why? Because desire doesn't flow toward effort. It flows toward value. When you compete, you turn him into the prize. You place him on a pedestal. You subconsciously say, your attention is more important than my self-respect. And even if he enjoys the attention, he won't feel deep desire for it. Men don't emotionally attach to women who chase validation. They attach to women who already feel complete. The truth is harsh, but freeing. If he's entertaining multiple options, your job is not to outperform the others. Your job is to stand in your own value. The woman who doesn't fight for attention is the one who stands out. She doesn't rush to respond. She doesn't explain herself. She doesn't try to prove why she's worthy. She simply is. That energy forces him to recalibrate. Suddenly, he's the one wondering if he's doing enough. Suddenly, Your attention feels earned instead of guaranteed. Competing creates anxiety. Confidence creates gravity. 6. Confidence changes the entire dynamic. Confidence is not loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't chase. It doesn't plead. Confidence is quiet certainty. A confident woman doesn't need reassurance every day. She doesn't panic when communication slows. She doesn't collapse emotionally when things feel uncertain. And that stability is deeply attractive to men. Why? Because confidence signals emotional safety. A man may enjoy attention, but he bonds with emotional strength. Confidence tells him you won't lose yourself inside him. It tells him you have boundaries. It tells him you can walk away if needed. And paradoxically, the woman who can walk away is the woman he doesn't want to lose. Most women believe affection creates attachment. It doesn't. Stability does. Confidence does. The ability to remain centered, even when he pulls back, is what imprints you emotionally. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Many women unconsciously chase because they fear abandonment. But once you become conscious of that pattern, everything changes. You stop reacting. You start choosing. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's self-trust. It's knowing that you are valuable, with or without his validation. And when a man feels that energy, it shifts how he sees you. He may not say it out loud, but internally, he feels it. He feels that losing you would cost him something. And that realization is powerful. 7. Emotional restraint creates emotional pull. Here's something rarely talked about. Emotional restraint is attractive. When you don't react immediately, when you don't overexpress, when you don't overexplain, you create emotional weight. Restraint doesn't mean suppressing feelings. It means not dumping them onto someone who hasn't earned them. Men feel safest and most intrigued around women who can feel deeply without losing control. When you show that you can experience emotion without being ruled by it, you become memorable. That's because restraint creates contrast. It makes your moments of warmth feel intentional, not desperate. It makes your affection feel meaningful, not automatic. He begins to associate you with calm, grounding energy. And that's addictive, because when the world is chaotic, the person who feels emotionally steady becomes irreplaceable. 8. Let him feel the shift. When you stop chasing, stop overgiving, stop explaining, something subtle but powerful happens. He feels the shift, not logically, emotionally. He senses your energy pulling back. He senses that you're no longer centered on him, and that triggers reflection. Is she losing interest? Did I misjudge her? Why do I suddenly care? This is where attraction flips. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed space for him to feel. Attraction doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to absence, confidence, and self-respect. And when you embody those qualities, even a man who once seemed indifferent starts to see you differently. Stay with me, because next we go deeper into how identity, boundaries, and self-worth activate long-term attraction in a man's psychology in a way nothing else can. 9. Identity is more attractive than effort. This is where attraction truly shifts. Most women focus on what they do for a man, how supportive they are, how understanding, how loyal, how available. But attraction is not built on effort. It's built on identity. A man doesn't fall for what you do. He falls for who you are being. When your identity is stable, grounded, and self-directed, it creates a quiet authority. You're not trying to earn his interest. You're living from a place that naturally commands it. And this is something no amount of texting, explaining, or proving can replace. Ask yourself this honestly. When you think about the women men can't forget, are they the ones who tried the hardest? Or are they the ones who seemed centered, self-contained, and unmoved by external validation? Attraction grows when he feels that your life has direction, that you are not waiting to be chosen, that you choose yourself first. The woman who knows who she is doesn't rush emotional intimacy. She doesn't collapse into potential. She doesn't build fantasies around men who haven't shown consistency. She stays rooted in reality, and that reality feels solid. Men crave solidity more than sweetness. 10. Boundaries awaken respect. Here's a truth that's uncomfortable, but necessary. Without boundaries, affection loses meaning. When everything is allowed, nothing is valued. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They communicate what is acceptable, what is earned, and what is not tolerated. And men respond to boundaries with respect, even if they resist them at first. When you say no calmly, without guilt or fear, it sends a powerful message. It tells them you are emotionally sovereign, that you are not easily swayed, that your standards are not negotiable. And here's the paradox. The clearer your boundaries, the safer a man feels investing emotionally. Chaos repels. Structure attracts. A woman without boundaries may feel loving, but she feels unstable. A woman with boundaries feels trustworthy, predictable in her values, grounded in her self-respect. And respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Boundaries are an expression of that acceptance. They say, "This is who I am, and I will not abandon myself to be wanted." When a man senses that you won't betray yourself for his approval, he starts to reassess your value. Stop negotiating your worth. One of the fastest ways to kill attraction is negotiating for basic respect, explaining why you deserve consistency, justifying why your needs matter, convincing him to treat you well. The moment you start negotiating, you send the message that your worth is flexible, and flexible worth is not respected. High V-value women don't argue about standards. They live them. They don't say, "Please communicate better." They observe. And if communication doesn't improve, they adjust their investment, calmly, quietly, without drama. That non-reaction is not weakness. It's power, because it forces him to face the consequences of his behavior without you spelling it out. And consequences are far more effective than conversations. When you stop negotiating, he either rises to meet you or fades out. Either way, you win. 12. Emotional self-control creates safety. Here's something deeply important. Men are drawn to women who feel emotionally safe to be around. That doesn't mean emotionally distant. It means emotionally regulated. A woman who spirals at uncertainty feels unpredictable. A woman who remains centered feels grounding. When you can feel disappointment without exploding, desire without clinging, affection without attachment, you become rare. Emotional self-control doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means not allowing them to control your behavior. This is what creates emotional gravity. He feels calmer around you, clearer, more himself, and that feeling sticks. 13. Pull your energy back, not your heart. Many women misunderstand pulling back. They think it means becoming cold, distant, or bitter. That's not what creates attraction. Pulling back is energetic, not emotional. You don't punish. You don't withdraw affection out of spite. You simply stop over-investing where effort isn't matched. Your warmth remains. Your kindness remains. But your availability becomes selective. That shift is felt immediately. He senses that your energy is no longer chasing him, and that absence forces him to look inward. Why does it feel different now? Why do I feel less secure? Why do I miss her presence? This is where attraction deepens, not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. 14. Let him experience consequence. Consequences don't require confrontation. They require consistency. If he pulls back, you don't chase. If he becomes inconsistent, you don't compensate. If he takes you for granted, you don't overgive. You simply adjust your presence. Men learn emotionally through experience, not explanation. When he feels the emotional weight of your absence, he understands something words could never teach him. And that understanding can shift everything. Stay with me, because next we move into the final psychological layer, the one that determines whether attraction fades again or becomes deeply rooted over time. Consistency is what locks attraction in place. This is where many women lose momentum after doing everything right. They pull back. They regain confidence. He starts leaning in again. And the moment they feel him returning, they overcorrect. They rush. They give more than before. They relax their boundaries. Attraction collapses not because you did something wrong, but because you abandoned consistency. Men don't trust sudden shifts. They trust patterns. If you were calm, grounded, and selective before, you must remain calm, grounded, and selective when he comes closer. Consistency is what makes him feel that this version of you is real, not a tactic. The moment you revert to over-availability, you break the spell. 15. Consistency communicates stability. It tells him this is who you are, not who you're pretending to be to win him. And that stability creates emotional safety. 16. Don't reward potential. Reward behavior. This is critical. Many women fall in love with potential, with what he could be, with who he might become if things work out. But attraction grows through behavior, not promises. When you reward words instead of actions, you teach him that effort isn't required. When you reward consistency, presence, and follow-through, you reinforce attraction. If he shows up, you open. If he disappears, you don't chase. If he invests, you reciprocate. That clarity simplifies everything. Men respond strongly to cause and effect. When your reactions align with behavior, not emotion, he learns quickly what earns access to you. And that learning deepens respect. 17. Stop explaining your emotional shifts. One of the most powerful things you can do is stop narrating your internal process. You don't need to explain why you're quieter, why you're busier, why you're pulling back. Explanations invite negotiation. Silence invites reflection. When you explain, you give him something to argue with. When you don't, he's left with only one thing to do. Feel the difference. Your emotional shift should be felt, not justified. This doesn't make you cruel. It makes you self-contained. And self-containment is deeply attractive. 18. Emotional unpredictability versus emotional mystery. 19. Self-worth is the foundation everything stands on. At the deepest level, attraction is not about tactics. It's not about timing messages, pulling back at the right moment, or saying the perfect thing. All of that collapses if self-worth is missing. Self-worth is what gives your silent strength. Self-worth is what makes your boundaries unshakable. Self-worth is what allows you to walk away without bitterness. When a man feels that your sense of value is internal, not dependent on his behavior, he experiences you differently. You no longer feel like someone trying to be chosen. You feel like someone choosing. And that shift is profound. A woman rooted in self-worth does not ask, "How do I make him want me?" She asks, "Does this connection align with who I am?" That question alone changes your energy. It removes pressure. It removes neediness. It replaces longing with clarity. 23. Attraction grows where self-abandonment ends. Many women don't realize this, but attraction often fades at the exact point where self-abandonment begins. When you ignore your intuition, when you tolerate inconsistency, when you silence your needs to keep someone close. The moment you stop abandoning yourself, Attraction recalibrates. This doesn't mean you become rigid or closed. It means you remain loyal to your inner truth. You stop overfunctioning emotionally. You stop carrying the connection alone. And when you stop carrying it, he feels the weight. That weight forces awareness. 24. Let him rise or remove himself. One of the most empowering realizations is this: you don't need to decide the outcome. You don't need to push him to choose. You don't need to convince him of your value. You simply hold your standard. If he rises, you meet him. If he stays where he is, you don't chase him. That's not punishment. That's alignment. A man who is meant to be with you will feel drawn to your clarity, not threatened by it. A man who isn't will fade, and that fading is not a loss. It's a correction. The calm woman is the unforgettable one. Drama creates intensity, but calm creates imprinting. A woman who remains composed when others panic becomes emotionally memorable. Her energy lingers. Her presence feels grounding. Her absence feels heavy. Men forget chaos. They remember peace. They remember the woman who didn't demand, who didn't plead, who didn't chase. They remember the woman who knew when to step back without anger. 25. That calm rewires attraction at a deep level. 26. Desire follows emotional leadership. Leadership is not control, it's containment. When you contain your emotions instead of leaking them, when you lead yourself instead of seeking direction from him, you become emotionally authoritative. And emotional authority is magnetic. He begins to mirror your stability. He slows down. He reflects. He invests. Not because you asked him to, but because your presence invites it. 27. When you stop chasing, you change the ending. This is the paradox most people never understand. The moment you stop trying to secure the outcome is the moment the outcome changes. When you let go of fear, attraction has room to grow. When you let go of control, connection deepens naturally. You don't need to force desire. Desire responds to authenticity, not effort. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." When you stop looking to a man to define your worth and instead anchor inward, you awake in a different kind of attraction, one that is felt, not chased. 28. This isn't about getting him back. It's about becoming unignorable. Here's the final truth. This process doesn't just make a man notice you again. It changes the caliber of men you attract entirely. You stop attracting men who are uncertain. You stop tolerating inconsistency. You stop shrinking to be chosen. You become the woman men feel compelled to step up for or step away from. And both outcomes serve you. So if there's one thing to remember, let it be this. Attraction is not about proving your worth. It is about becoming the living embodiment of that truth. When you occupy that space, even the man who previously looked right past you will sense the change in the atmosphere. This happens not because you pursued him, nor because you persuaded him, but because you finally planted your feet in your own identity. And that kind of stillness is simply impossible to overlook. If this insight struck a chord within you, do not merely listen and scroll away. Take a brief pause and type the word value in the comments section below. Do this not for my benefit, but for your own confirmation. Because the second you verbally claim your worth, your entire reality begins to realign. If you desire more content that dissects male psychology, attraction mechanics, and self-respect without the fluff, hit that subscribe button immediately. This is the space where we vocalize the truths that most are too terrified to whisper. Please ensure you like this video to help it find the women who desperately need this guidance. And if you know a friend who is perpetually chasing, over-investing, or dissolving into a toxic bond, forward this to her. It could be the precise wake-up call she requires. Remain grounded. Remain powerful. And never forget that true attraction is not born from exertion. It is born from the absolute knowledge of who you are.